Rad Power Bikes sent me their new RadRover 6 Plus for evaluation, and because I was pleasantly surprised by how well the RadRover 5 did on the trails in this mountain bike park, I came here for my second ride ever. I want to start out by emphasizing that Rad does not claim any of its bikes are designed for the kind of riding I'm going to show you. Their Rovers are multi-terrain e-bikes, but they aren't meant to compete with electric mountain bikes that usually cost thousands more. I will be riding this just like a hardtail mountain bike, however, which is why I always like to point out that I lower my seat before tackling more technical trails. That lets me keep my center of gravity low when seated and makes hanging off the back for steep descents a lot easier. No bike will feel properly balanced bouncing over roots and rocks if you aren't balanced on top of it. I also have the Kenda Juggernaut tires aired down to 10 psi, which not only allows them to act like a suspension, but it also allows them to conform to the shape of various trail obstacles, which greatly enhances their grip. The two features I was most interested in testing were the 15% extra torque to the ground Rad claims the 6 Plus has over the 5, and the 6 Plus's 60mm travel fork versus the 80mm travel fork on the 5. That's why you'll see me aim for exposed roots, which carpet the first section of this trail network. The 60mm travel of this fork is just fine for stuff like this. Along with the air-down 4-inch wide tires, the spring fork keeps the 6 Plus planted without shaking you off the bars. Another common feature of these trails are steep steps created mainly by large exposed roots like you see here. As you will see several times in this video, this is really the only type of obstacle where I really notice the reduced travel of the fork on the 6. That's because I run out of suspension travel before my momentum is getting me up and over the step.
Nice. It is a little more challenging to take step ups like that with less travel in the fork, but it's still doable.
But that usually means I have to be a bit slower and a bit more dynamic with my body than with the 5. A little twist of the throttle is all it takes to finish the job, as Rad's new proprietary 750 watt peak motor has plenty of torque for this. The RadRover 6 Plus has 5 levels of pedal assist, which is handy for getting its 74-pound weight up longer climbs like this one. I started in pedal assist setting 3, but bumped it up to 5 once I hit the steeper section with synthetic mats. I had no problems making this climb with a reasonable amount of human effort to keep my momentum all the way to the top. One of the things that I love about Rad's throttle is that it's active even when you have pedal assist set to 0. That's how I do the vast majority of my riding here because I like the workout. However, anytime I need the help from the motor, a blip of the throttle gets me 750 watts almost instantly. It's a real butt saver when an obstacle gets tough but my pedals aren't positioned where I can get a lot of human power to the ground. On that note, the 6 Plus also has a 34-tooth gear in the back, just like on the 5, which is the lowest gear found on any hub-motored e-bike I've ever ridden. And that's a big help for keeping my pedaling cadence high even as I want to ride slowly over an obstacle or around a sharp switchback. This section of trail is the advanced skills area, and though there's no way I'm going to jump with a 74-pound e-bike, the RadRover 6 Plus still feels balanced climbing and cresting mounds, dropping off the smaller drop-offs, and carving the banked turns. It's a good test of the hydraulic brakes, which provide great modulation and stopping power. A big advantage of these brakes over the mechanical disc brakes on the RadRover 5 is the adjustable brake levers. I rode this test ride with them at their factory setting, but that helped me realize that I'd benefit from a shorter reach to the levers. Just a few turns of an Allen key was all it took to get the reach I wanted without impacting braking force in any way.
You all right?
Yeah.
You sure?
Yeah. Yeah, thank you.
Is that where you ended up?
That's where I ended up.
Okay, I'm gonna hang out just to make sure.
I'm good, thank you.
All right.
Oh, goodness. Oh, goodness.
One of the nitpicks I have about the assembly of this bike is, unlike any other e-bike I've gotten, even from Rad, they really grease the seat posts, and I am not a fan of greasing seat posts because of exactly what's happening to me. Even though I have this thing locked super tight, I do find on a course like this, my seat post is going down, and sometimes when I'm really torquing with my thighs to climb or work around a root or something, I'll knock the saddle one way or another. So I am going to get in there and degrease everything and get it to bare metal on bare metal. I think it comes from, you know, I spent years working in the triathlon industry, including at a triathlon bike. And a lot of people would complain that their seat post got all scratched up when they were adjusting it. And it's like, you know, that's just your seat post. It doesn't need to look pretty down by where it gets locked into your seat tube. But that would bug people. And if you greased seat posts, they wouldn't get scratched, and people would wipe the grease off and not complain. So, get in the car. Yeah, see, look, it just, and that thing is tight way down. Yep, and then I could just by hand straighten it out. And this clamp is super tight. I mean, the amount of force I'm putting on that clamp is not something that your average e-bike rider is probably going to be generating. maybe e-bike riders that would do this, but you shouldn't have to. So the moral of the story is, if your seat post comes greased from the factory, just straight out, strip the grease off, go bare metal on bare metal, and then adjust it to where you want, lock it down. And if there are scratches on your seat post after you do that, suck it up, man. It's a bike. It's not a Fabergé egg.
This trail entrance actually has stone steps, and the 6 Plus had no problems descending them even with its shallower 60 millimeters of fork travel. Yes, more travel is better, but descending steps is more about body dynamics than suspension travel when you take them as slowly as this. Climbing them was a different story. That's where I wish I had the extra 20 millimeters of travel found in the RadRover 5's fork, which would have helped me to get my center of balance over the edge of each step before the rebound of the fork started to push me back off the step. I still could manage it with the help from a well-timed blip of the throttle at each step, but it did take a little more effort and skill to succeed than needed with the RadRover 5.
That is where you notice the reduction in travel in the fork, because you get bounced off of your front wheel before you get over the obstacle. The difference between 60 millimeters of travel and 80 millimeters of travel, depending on which direction you're starting from. But I'll put it this way: the 80 millimeter travel fork in the RadRover 5 has 33.33% more travel. It's a lot more when you look at it that way, and it is a significantly different experience going up obstacles like that. Going down, it's not that big a deal, but going up, that's where you really need that travel in a fork to keep from bouncing backwards over your pivot point and off of your center of balance when you're trying to get up over step ups like that. It's not the kind of obstacle that this is really designed for in the first place. One of the things that Rad is very good about is not making claims that this is a mountain bike designed for trails like this, but I still am going to test it on this stuff because it is capable. It is capable of this stuff. It has its limits, but if you have access to riding like this and you have the desire and either the skill set or the willingness to crash a bit to get that skill set, it can do this kind of riding.
This last obstacle is a mini rock garden that's a great test of suspension travel and traction, which means it's a bit of a stretch for the RadRover 6 Plus just as it is for the RadRover 5. This needs a better fork to keep from getting bounced all around and grippier tires to keep from sliding off the sides of the rocks.
I did it, but that was a lot scarier than it needed to be.
The RadRover 6 Plus isn't a giant leap in capabilities over the RadRover 5 for riding like this, but as you hopefully could see, it's still capable of doing tougher riding than most riders will ask of it. If you're interested in getting a 6 Plus or any Rad power bike for yourself, please use the link in the video description to place your order. It supports the channel when you do. Be sure to subscribe for more e-bike trail tests. I really appreciate you watching the Tech of Tech, and I hope to see you next time.